Yeah, and Emily, do you want to introduce yourself since you haven't been on before?
I'm Emily, and I was part of the No Waste Ambassador program last year. Um, and yeah, I love the No Waste Ambassador program. I tell people about it all the time and share the knowledge that I learned, and I love being a part of the
Yes.
group. So excited to be
Big
part
on
of it.
big on Instagram, always sharing good events. Um, and then you're very, it seems like you're pretty active with the bicycling community and
Yes,
composting community.
yes. I'm about to. Hope I'm a little too busy now, but maybe in the next couple months, I'm gonna join the board for Fall City Community Bike Works, I think. I'm already like on a few of their committees, but just until I get like past some busy times in my life, I'm waiting to officially join. And then yeah, I love composting. I compost for several neighbors through my Buy Nothing group and also through an app called Share Waste. And then I know the folks that run Louisville Compost Co-op and the U of L Composting Center, which is all the same anyway, but
Yes, we had Brian talking to the group
yeah.
a couple weeks ago, I guess it was. Very good. Thanks, Emily. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and start us off. I'm going to share the screen, share, and I'm going to hit the button. Okay, I start to lose my pictures, but okay. So everybody can see that, right? It's the boring title slide. Okay, there we go. Like all these little pop-ups, like I don't need you to be telling me things while I'm presenting. Okay, so we just a quick update on this is we decided to have all the training virtual as we've been doing, but we decided it would be helpful to have an in-person final training event kind of thing. And that way we get to see everybody. We get to give you what we like to call your swag bags. So you get some of the giveaways and as much as we can offer you your individual things like an we will have a badge for you so you can look official if you're volunteering. We have a t-shirt for you and things like that. And then we can just kind of wrap up the training. So hopefully everybody, most everybody will be able to attend on March 16th at 6 p.m. We're going to say it's an hour, you know, if by chance you can't get there till 6:30 or something like that, that's okay. I think maybe Margaret was on there is like that was a date you couldn't come.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I want you
that's
to be
okay.
jealous. I'll be in the mountains in Colorado.
Oh man,
Oh,
okay. Well, we'll miss you, and I'm sure you'll have a great time there. We'll just ask that you set up a time to come by the
and
office
and how do
to
I
get
do
your
that,
stuff
Karen?
through email with me and Diane.
Okay.
Yeah. Really, you could come by next week if you want to do it before your trip,
Okay.
or this week even. But we might have a few things to give you later. But hopefully, we'll see you at events, and you won't be a stranger. But we just really want to push that is a required thing to do, that we see you and we're able to give you some good stuff. Also, Diane's been sending out some emails with Sign Up Genius links. We're using that as a tool to help us, you know, see who's planning to come to different things. So tours are that way, so we know who can come. And then volunteer opportunities, any that have come up, we're trying to get those out so you can already be thinking about weekend festivals or things that we know we're going to be at. So use those links to sign up if you can. I did want to clarify one thing about logging hours. I think it came up when I wasn't on here. So we're saying the training sessions that we're doing are going to not be eligible for a trainee to log hours. So basically, we don't want you to log hours at all until you're officially an ambassador. And just because some people kind of maybe came at the beginning and thought, you know, it's not for me or whatever, we want that to be you've gone through the training, and then it's kind of official starting after today or after our in-person event or whatever. That at that point, if you come to any of our volunteer opportunities, or if you do something on your own, please log those hours so we know. And then the tours can still be logged hours as well. And but like Sue from last year and now Emily today, you know, you've come on, you're kind of helping chime in about things. That's something you could log for your own hours since you're already an ambassador. So hopefully that makes sense. And then we are going to have to send through Metro, since you're volunteering for a Metro program. There's a volunteer / intern application form. There's really not much to it, but I have to submit these things and do a background check for you guys. And we don't like to do that either until we know you're really going to commit to being an ambassador. And we like to create a little badge for everybody. So having a photo, imagine it being on a name tag badge. So that's kind of what we're looking for, is like a nice face photo. Okay.
Erin, Margaret had a question, and so did Brian.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so where are we supposed to log hours, and where is the form to be filled out?
It's a Google form, and we will send that link again. That was something when we did our kind of in-person orientation, we had a little flyer with some QR codes, but we'll make sure all of that is sent to you in an email, plus the paper if you prefer to print it and have it there handy, or if you're more tech savvy and want to keep the links handy in your desktop or something like that, then that's fine too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. What were the other questions?
Actually, it was me, and it was
hi, Brian.
a question. Hello. It wasn't a question. It was more of a statement. I was at a meeting on Saturday with Mayor Greenberg and I think 3 or 4 of the deputy mayors. And I spoke with Nicole George, who's a deputy mayor, and she loves the No Waste Ambassadors. She spoke for quite a few minutes on it. So if you have any ideas, or maybe if you see a project that needs to be done or one that you want to undertake, reach out to her and let her know what you're doing. She is very, very, very involved in recycling and just general kind of trash cleanup and doing what needs to be done with the trash as well. So you're not alone, and don't think that it's not appreciated, because it really is.
Thank you for that. It's good to know that she, at all her various things, still talks about that. She is considered over Public Works. So, you know, beyond our director of Public Works, she would be our next boss. So that is good to hear. Thank you so much.
Oh, speaking of that, Karen, have they hired someone for that position? Are they looking for someone? That was mentioned, and I didn't catch all of it. And but is there a search going on for a new public works director?
I don't know that they've started that actual search. We have an interim director who is Jeff Brown. He was already an assistant director over traffic and engineering things. And so he's kind of filling in right now. But there has been an active search for the assistant director that's over solid waste division. And they're in interview processes right now. So hopefully it won't take too long.
They mentioned they were doing like nationwide plus local. It's not that they're trying to exclude anybody here locally. They're not. But for those, there were several positions. I thought one was solid waste, one was new police chief, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started for today. We're talking about behavior change and resourceful living. And I'm kind of kicking it off with the behavior change portion of this. Because, well, behavior change is important to us in what we do, because we are often trying to get people to change their behavior, which is often one of the hardest things to get people to do. So, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. So, so knowledge isn't everything. There's what's called the intention behavior gap. So there's a disconnect between knowing what you would like to do and then actually doing it. So the gap between even the possession of knowledge or values or awareness and then the actual behavior. I think, well, if you all have any examples, chime in, but I think the easiest one to think of is like healthy living or losing weight or diet or something. You might say, like, I know sugar is bad for me. That's the knowledge is there. But actually cutting it out of my diet, you know, that behavior is not always there. Does anybody have any other examples about that intention behavior gap?
I have one, and that's stopping the use of plastic bags, like from Kroger or any other grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
That drives me batty. You would not understand. You just wouldn't believe how many people wrap up their recycling in those bags and put
Yeah,
them
that's a good one.
inside the bins. And I'm like, don't do that. And they're like, but you know, we're reusing them. And I'm like, yeah, but you have to think about where they're going. Um, so yeah, no, that drives me batty. And the
Yes.
one good thing, and I didn't know if you knew this, Karen, for pickup at Kroger, especially right now, they are using compostable bags that break down in about a week if you leave them outside. But it's only on pickup. They use a different, well, pickup and delivery, I should say.
Yeah.
Uh,
I have not seen that.
yeah, they're big white bags. They're not the typical yellow Kroger bags. They're kind of rectangular, but they do break down. So those, in my opinion, are a little bit different. But the yellow plastic bags at Kroger, that, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. We're actually going to talk about that in one of our examples in this presentation about putting plastic bags in recycling. So we'll get there. So research shows there's not a strong correlation between having environmental values and actually acting on them. And then this quote, after 40 years of research that industriously sought out linkages between environmental concern and environmental behaviors, the answer is clear: the relationship barely exists. So there's a lot going on that's keeping someone from an environmental behavior that isn't really relevant. It's not really related to just your knowledge or, you know, your concerns. So, which is kind of sad and also makes our job even harder. So what
I just have a
actually?
quick thing.
Oh,
Back
please.
in the 90s, like Kroger, they all gave away the reusable bags for free, but now they charge for them. It's like, how did this disconnect happen? You know?
Yeah, that's
Sorry
true.
to interrupt.
No, yeah, you know, yeah, and that's another thing is sometimes incentives will help, and if it's a
Yes.
free bag, you know, that's definitely going to help. So what actually works? No Waste ambassadors will need to challenge the human tendency to resist change. You know, none of us really like change. So the goal is to use science to help motivate people to take action. You can't actually change anyone's values. So instead, there's this focus of trying to bridge that gap, that intention and action gap. So what some ways to do this, for one, would be sharing your story about how you've struggled or succeeded in some kind of behavior. So if you have personal experience making a positive change in your life, that helps if you're trying to get someone else to change their behavior and being very open or honest about it. And an example for that, like when I talk about composting, I compost at home and I'm not always super successful, or I sometimes I get lazy with my composting and things like that. So and I dealt with rats, you know, it's like I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to make it look like I do something and I don't have any problems. So I think sharing your story, and it really kind of helps people relate to you better, and learn. You know, we all can learn from our different experiences. Another example, when, especially around the holidays, I like to talk about ways to reduce waste. And actually I shared this year in our newsletter, I shared ambassadors' stories. So hopefully this year I'll do the same thing where you can kind of get to share some tips to our readers of our weekly newsletter. But you know, my mom and I, well, my mom hosts a lot of our family gatherings, so we've tried to think of ways to reduce waste, and she has her collection of plates that she always uses, and things like that. So being able to share your own story when you're asking people to change behaviors is really, I think, very helpful. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Well, I always tell people it's just like getting married. Until you do it a couple of times, it seems real hard.
Well, yeah, or hopefully if you do it one time, it's difficult. Yes. Yeah. It's true though. You kind of have to just try and not get discouraged. So another thing that you can do is share resources about, like, or sharing your favorite places to go for resources. You know, Googling something brings up oftentimes way too much. And with waste and recycling, it's often wrong because that's a very local issue. So, so sharing your resources is good. And then helping build community support and systems for others to take action. So, whether it's something that's already in existence and you're bringing more people in, or maybe you start something, you know, if your neighborhood doesn't really have a group, or maybe you have a neighborhood association, but you could maybe add an environmental component to the board, something like that. Or maybe your child's school or a grandchild's school, trying to just bring using that community to bring resources there. Does anyone have any experience with helping others using any of these methods that they want to share? You don't have to share.
Well, working for a small suburban city, um, recycling is very popular, believe it or not. Most people want to do it until they go to do it and they realize that it's maybe not as simple as they think it is. That, you know, it's best to look for the symbols, make sure that it's eligible for recycling. And it's not just, a lot of people think, oh, it's plastic, it can be recycled. That's not necessarily true. So, I mean, there's a fair amount of education, and what I have found is it's best to just be very upfront about it. That we only take these things for recycling. You can look for the symbols. Um, Other things like Kroger bags can be recycled at the store, but they're not eligible to be thrown into our recycling. And that gets confusing because people work with other people that live in different cities that have different carriers and things of that nature. So, and it's best to get that information out front and center where people can find it. And we have an entire newsletter for our city that goes out to every resident once a year that deals with nothing but recycling.
Mhm.
So, and we tell
That's
people
good.
to hang on to that.
Yes, and I agree. People often ask me very specific questions about, well, what should I do with this? And I know they're trying to find out how can they recycle this thing. One example is like a headlight cover off of a car or something, you know, and it's like it. I basically was like, you're gonna have to just put that in the trash. And he was sad to hear that. It's like I'm supposed to have an answer for recycling absolutely anything, but it's just not everything is eligible, like you said. So kind of have to just be
Oh,
upfront and hopefully people realize, it's just not how it is.
Karen, speaking about that exact example, I just went through that not terribly long ago. I had a headlight that stopped functioning. So because I'm
Mhm.
cheap, I just changed it myself. Okay. And this was a composite headlight. It wasn't like you just stick a bulb in from the back, it was one whole piece. And car dealerships can recycle those as well
Mhm.
as some junkyards. It depends, I think, on the quantity of things that they have to recycle, but they send it back to the manufacturer. So sometimes
Yeah,
you have to
that's
have,
typically my answer for oddball things is typically like
yeah,
there's not a system here, but if you want to reach out to that manufacturer and find out if they
yeah.
offer anything, then by all means do that.
So
But yeah.
sometimes it's weird, like recycling and gardening kind of overlap because you have to dig to find the answer. And that's what I tell people here locally. Yeah.
I love that. That's funny. All right. So change is a process. There's a process that people go through in order to make a lasting change in their habits. Um, this in the next slide, I'm gonna show a model. It comes from the field of health behaviors, but it can be applied to sustainable behaviors as well. And basically, the model proposes that people must build up the motivation and know-how to change, and that this motivation is dependent on many personal and social factors. So I'm going to show you this chart or model, and then we're going to kind of go through it with one behavior and talk about what it looks like for each. So it'll be like an example. So, so these are the stages of behavior change. So pre-contemplation is basically that the individual may or may not be aware of the problematic behavior and generally has no desire to change. Okay, so that's for Brian, the person who threw the plastic bag in the recycling that had no idea. And then contemplation, an individual intends to start the sustainable behavior, but is still ambivalent. They're not really committed yet to take action. Preparation is the individual's committed to stick with this sustainable behavior, take small steps to integrate that behavior into their routine, which will prepare them to make the behavior part of their lives. And then action is the individual tries out the sustainable behavior, experiments with it, works through challenges that come with this, implementing this new behavior. And then, of course, maintenance. And after taking the action for the first time, the individual commits to maintaining the sustainable behavior. So if you look at the progress and then the relapse on either side of the stages, these steps aren't necessarily linear. People can move back and forth between the stages because their motivation might change or they might run up against various barriers. And often people relapse in their behavior multiple times or might even get stuck in one of these stages. So if we look at a desired behavior, and it's funny, Brian even mentioned it today already because this is what the example we'll use, but keeping plastic bags out of household recycling. So let's say that's the behavior we want to see change. So what it looks like at this pre-contemplation stage is that plastic bags are in the recycling container. These are, then we list some possible beliefs or thoughts. So they may not be aware that they cause problems at the recycling facility. They might believe that sorting recycling is difficult, takes too much time, or doesn't make a difference. They might believe that plastic bags belong in the recycling. They might put them there because they already saw bags there, if it's maybe a community recycling bin. They might use plastic bags to collect and carry their recycling, and they just put it all in. So these are all kinds of things that are going along with that pre-contemplation stage. Okay, so this one's a little longer as far as what could be happening. But the contemplation stage. So what it looks like, plastic bags are still in the recycling container. So here's some things that could be going on. They might have learned that plastic bags don't go in the recycling, but they may not care enough to actually change. They believe, same thing. They might still think sorting doesn't matter. It won't make a difference anyway. They might be contemplating, how bad is it really to put plastic bags in the recycling? They might doubt wherever they heard that you're not supposed to, they might doubt that and not trust it. Again, they might see plastic bags in theirs or another recycling container. Here's that wishful recycling thing. They might just hate the idea of putting it in their garbage, so keep putting it in their recycling. They might believe that the city hauler or recycler should figure out a way to recycle them. They might be looking at alternative options. They might not be sure how else to get recycling from the kitchen to their outside container. They might not be aware of waste prevention and alternative, I lost my place, alternative recycling options. So like taking them to Kroger instead or not getting them at all. They might wonder if waste prevention and bringing plastic bags to another location is time consuming, might take up too much space, unsanitary. And then even if they know about Kroger recycling, they might doubt or wonder if they're really going to recycle them. So there's all kinds of reasons why they might be stuck in this contemplation stage.
One thing that's easily countered when people say, but I don't want to have to take it to, the waste reduction center or back to Kroger or whatever, that mileage is actually deductible. Now I know not everybody deducts miles, but I do that for my business. I track and deduct some. So for me, it's really easy. And there are plenty of apps out there like Stride that are free that allow you to do that. So that's kind of a helpful little tip.
Thanks, Brian. You've mentioned that before. I always forget about that because I don't typically track mileage for things. All right. And then the one I didn't really say out loud here, it's the last one, questioning if the production of durable bags and washing and reusing bags is better or worse for the environment. And that's, that kind of goes along with lots of different environmental behaviors. And sometimes you kind of wonder like, well, is it really better if I have to drive all this way? That kind of like, what's the full impact? So that is something that gets people stuck in a progress stage here. All right, so the next stage is preparation. And what it would look like is that plastic bags are in the recycling or plastic bags are piling up in the kitchen or plastic bags are in the garbage. So maybe they've committed to not putting the bags in the recycling, but they're not quite sure what to do with them. They're talking to everyone in the household, apartment complex, or office about making the switch. They're asking people if they know about alternatives. they're looking and trying to find out about alternatives, shopping around, maybe for the reusable bag. Maybe they're realizing like, oh, okay, if I don't want to have to deal with these things, how can I get them out of my life to begin with? Looking for a free durable bag. We have those. Creating a space in the kitchen to store and dry plastic bags. And then looking into alternative options for carrying recycling to the recycling containers, which, yes, that seems logical to me, but it's not always logical to everybody. So this is that preparation stage. So they're getting there. They're starting to think about how they're going to go about taking the full-on action, which at that stage, plastic bags are never or typically not in the recycling at all. They might be trying out various options. Some people in the household or apartment complex or office have made the switch and maybe some have not. They might forget sometimes to put plastic bags in their new place, but they're feeling good about making the change. They might feel frustrated with the mess or the fuss if it seems like it's a hard thing to change. And then starting to notice that they use a lot of plastic bags because they are focused on them right now, which can lead to a decision to reduce instead of just recycling them, which can be good. All right, so they've taken the action and now it's a matter of maintaining that. So again, plastic bags are never or they're rarely in recycling. And at this point, it's just something that you do. I'd say a lot of us on this call are in that way. You know, you might use your reusable bags, but you might still get, I know with takeout food or something, like I often end up with a bag for that. You might be setting up a plan to inform other people that use your recycling, and you're regularly taking the plastic bags to a recycling drop-off, or even cleaning your own reusable bags if you have to wash them and stuff. Okay, so there's that chart. That's kind of, you know, going through it with that example. You can obviously kind of think it through for other environmental behaviors. But it's good to understand where people might be in that list when you're talking to people. And you know, we talk to lots of we talk to a lot of people through our events and classes, and everybody's at different stages. You know, not everybody, some people it's the first they've thought about taking care of their waste in a different way, or some people are already such avid recyclers that they might even be causing problems because they're recycling things they shouldn't be recycling, things like that. So get all kinds of people, but understanding these stages and how people might progress or relapse within that, I think, is helpful when communicating to others. I have a memory, and Diane, you probably do too, when we had a homeschool group during the heart of COVID, wanted us to do an online class, and she was trying to reduce plastics, I think. Just in her life, she really didn't want to be using plastic anymore. But it was just, she felt so overwhelmed by that task. And when we got on there and we were kind of talking to her about different things she can do, you know, it was like, well, why don't you just start here? I don't know if it was just about plastics. It was something. And it was just like too much. And it was kind of like she was going to get stopped at this maybe contemplation stage because it just was too much. And it made her feel so much better for us to say, why don't you just choose one thing that you see in your trash and focus on that and figure out how you can either not use it at all, or how you can, you know, reduce it, recycle it, whatever it was. So it can get very overwhelming if you try to make too many changes all at once.
Karen, I found that I get stuck in the contemplation stage as well on basically my entire life. because if I can't over contemplate it, I'm not happy about it. I just can't do one thing. I have to do a succession of things in order to make it to feel like I'm getting anything done, i.e. housework or anything like that. That if I have to kind of trick myself into thinking I am just doing one thing, and and then I can go ahead and do some of the other things. The one thing I really want to say is that when we talk to people about tabling and we try and not convince them, but try and give them the same information about it's okay just to recycle plastic Coke bottles. Start there and be successful on that. And if you can do that, then later when it's comfortable for you, you can do something else. You don't have to go, full guns. And it's okay if you don't go full guns. It's okay if you only recycle aluminum. Aluminum's very recyclable. It's okay if that's all you can recycle emotionally, then it's okay. At least you're recycling something. At least you're thinking about something. So when we talk to people at events or out in the community, it's best not to belittle them for only recycling one thing, or not, where that poor lady was just so overwhelmed. And luckily she had us to go to talk about. I can imagine that if she went somewhere else, that she might have, people might have said, well, of course you recycle. That's ridiculous not to recycle. You should do this. And then all of a sudden you're zero waste. And all you have is a little, multi-grain bar of packaging, which I don't know if I believe those people or not when they have no waste for a week. But yeah, it does get very overwhelming, and to be sure that we are very sensitive to people and their needs and requirements about recycling when we talk about recycling and putting waste in its place. The biggest thing is to make sure that people are putting waste in its proper place for health and safety reasons. Other than that, then it has to be their own comfortable. It's like wearing a pair of shoes that's too small, but boy, your feet look really good in them. You just have to weigh that. Anyway, so I'll get off my
Thank you.
soapbox.
That's good.
I always tell people start with the packaging and look and see what the packaging tells you. Now, a lot of packages will not tell you, don't worry about those in the beginning, just whatever it says on the packaging. And I myself have discovered I'm not taking my own advice, because I was throwing out the packaging that my toilet paper came in until I realized it goes in the bag with the stuff at the grocery store, with the grocery bag. And I had been pitching it thinking, oh, I can't recycle that.
Very good. That's a good point.
Yeah. So just start small and you'll learn. And I don't think anybody can beat the Recycle Coach app. It's the best. The best. I love it.
Yay. All right. So there are there's, I'm sure, tons of books on behavior change. These are the only two I've read. So the one titled Switch: How to Change Things When Change is Hard. I loved that book. I think I might have heard about it at a conference and immediately got it out of the library. And now I have my own copy I found at a used bookstore. But I absolutely loved that book. And then Fostering Sustainable Behavior is another book. It's a lot older, and I think they have several editions. They make some updates to it, but it's been around a long time, and it's a good one too, especially just kind of that methodic way to change a behavior, or maybe to do a whole program. So it's been something, both of these have been used from, like, where with Diana and mine and Diane's job, you know, just trying to get people to change a behavior or trying to get people to understand a system and the best way to use a system. So so it's really good. It's really good books. And the main idea of the Switch book is these 3 concepts. So you kind of have to envision everyone as there's an elephant and a rider and a path. And your rational mind is the rider. Okay, so that's and the elephant is your emotional mind. And then the path is the situation or the environment. So you can kind of imagine the reason it's an elephant is because it's really hard. It would be hard to get an elephant to change their direction, right? So, so the rational mind might be the one that just knows, you know, of course, recycling is important. I think we should all be recycling. But the emotional mind is the one that might be keeping you from, let's say you don't have it offered at your house and you don't, you know, the emotional mind's like, I don't want to pay extra and I don't want to have to collect it and drive it anywhere. Like that ends up being too much work. So, so that's the elephant. But then if you can shape the path to make it easier to do the behavior, then it's even better. So, let's see. So the directing the rider is kind of like having that knowledge and how that there's that gap between, you know, intention and behavior. If you are trying to, maybe you have like to bike to, you wish you could bike to work or something. But of course, when it's raining, that's where you can't get that elephant motivated because it's raining or it's cold or something. So, or maybe you've never done it before and you're scared to even do it. So to shape the path, you might find a buddy that can help you or be with you during that. So, so anyway, that's kind of the main idea of Switch. And I've definitely used these concepts as we move through some of our programming that we have and collection systems. And I think I have it written down in some notes as we move forward for some examples. So we'll wait for that. And then the main idea of fostering sustainable behavior are these steps. Selecting behaviors to promote, identifying barriers and benefits, developing the strategies, pilot testing those strategies, and then implementation of what's going to work. And this is kind of another way to look at it. So if you identify a behavior you want people to do, you do need to figure out what are those barriers. That's like the first step, is figuring out what keeps people from doing that. Identify who is doing the action and what they value. You kind of have to know your audience, right? And create messages and tools that help overcome the barriers and reinforce the benefits of it. Get people to try it through a pilot program or whatever, and then set goals and give feedback. And so we have, as far as the barriers and benefits, I have another slide here to talk a little bit about that. So to change a behavior, people weigh the benefits and motivations against the barriers and the costs. They might not realize they're doing it, but that's what happens. And to help motivate people to change, we need to identify possible barriers so we can figure out ways to minimize or maybe avoid those barriers. So, for example, structural barriers. Let's say that an example is lack of recycling infrastructure and fees for recycling are true barriers for many people in the United States. So for like, let's get a little deeper locally, you know, you might live in an apartment complex that doesn't even offer recycling on site, which is such a bummer. So, or as we talked about our collection system being kind of complex, if you live in an unincorporated area, it's not just part of your, it's not like automatic. You have to pay extra. You see that coming out of your bank account every month, you know. So those are barriers. We always say, well, we have drop-off dumpsters, they're free, but the idea of carrying all your stuff to a drop-off dumpster, that's a barrier. When I'm talking to people, I always, you know, give them the theoretical gold star. I'm always like, thank you so much, because I know it takes more effort to recycle that way. So, and then fear of risk and sacrifice is a barrier. Humans tend to resist change and avoid risk. It's just what we do. People will generally underestimate the benefits of changing and also overestimate the costs. Humans sometimes stay in intensely and uncomfortable situations for a long time before they're willing to take risks associated with a change. This is just kind of natural to us for whatever reason. Calling on the public to sacrifice individual wants for the greater good of the planet is counter to human psychology. So, you know, even our large item pickup by appointment system has been rolling out. We're almost phased in completely. And yesterday's paper, there was an editorial comment about it. And the big complaint was that in the old system, people had the set out weekend and people loved to drive around and get things, you know, and that promoted reuse. And and of course, then they go on to say that the city didn't think about that at all. But what they don't know is that we did. And that really, you know, actually the first step in making an appointment is to check if your items are usable. And if so, don't make an appointment, actually use a different system to give away that item or donate that item. So people might not understand that this system has more to do with the cleanliness of the entire community, preventing illegal dumping in the entire community. And it's not focused on one person's neighborhood and how well they've been using the system for reuse. So, you know, you kind of have to look past yourself a little bit and think about it as a whole sometimes. The benefits emphasize a variety of values. So if we think an activity matches with our existing core values, we'll be more motivated to change. But the opposite is also true. If people draw on many sets of beliefs, religious, cultural, ethical, environmental, economic, when deciding what that right thing to do is. So if you apply many positive values to the activity, rather than just focusing on the environmental benefit, that can be helpful. You know, that kind of goes back to knowing your audience and knowing what's going to be considered a benefit to different people. Don't assume someone has a particular value. Instead, try to sell the change based on many different values. People can do the right environmental thing for many different reasons. An example, someone who bikes to work, but then they throw recyclables in the garbage. You might assume that since they bike to work for environmental reasons. So it would seem odd that they don't recycle, but maybe they don't have a car, or maybe it's for exercise. But it really doesn't matter why. The activity still helps the environment. Some common values are personal well-being, saving money, health, family, community, and of course, environment. So kind of focusing on the benefits, whatever behavior it is, focusing on the different benefits, or that all these different values, how it affects all those values is better. And then there's this idea of norms. So A principle of right action binding the members of a group and serving to guide, control, or regulate proper and acceptable behavior. That's what a norm is. So there's different types of norms, and we'll go through each of those: social norms, prescriptive norms, and descriptive. So for social, humans are social creatures, so it's important for us to act in a way that's socially acceptable to those around us. Asking someone to go against their social norms is asking them to go against their human nature. People in that pre-contemplative and contemplative stages of behavior change will consider what they perceive their peers and leaders think when deciding whether to take an action. It is, I don't know if you all know Sarah Lynn Cunningham. She's very active in the environmental community here in Louisville, and I'm friends with her on Facebook. And I'm always amazed at how many people will ask her an opinion, like so much so that when we were, you know, when the water contamination issue came up, she posted a picture of herself drinking water and said, a lot of people have reached out to me and asked, so here's my take on it. Our water's safe to drink. And it was just like, wow, you know, so many people, it's kind of like, oh, well, if Sarah Lynn's doing it, then I want it. Like that's their, that's what they would consider norm. So anyway, that's just what made me think of that.
Karen, Corey has a
Yes.
question.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Actually, no, I was just giving a thumbs up when you mentioned Sarah Lynn, because everybody knows Sarah Lynn. She is
I'm
course,
sorry, I thought it was a hand.
That's okay. I love
Thumbs up,
Sarah Lynn.
I'm still here.
She's on
my
our
best.
waste district. She's on our waste district advisory committee, which I think she has great, great opinions and helps with that. Okay, and then some social norms we know through explicit communication. Like in a classroom setting, you might say, we raise our hand when we want to answer a question. Or some you would know through subtle clues. Maybe you weren't told that, but you showed up in a class and you saw that everyone is raising their hand when they want to answer a question. So you just pick up on that through a cue. So social norms are, you know, even for a while, I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but like LG&E was in their bills. I mean, I think I'm paperless, so I don't know what comes anymore. But for a while, when they sent you something, it would say, here's how you measure up, your energy usage measures up to houses the same size as yours, basically. Or, you know, so it kind of like trying to get people to save energy based so that you can kind of see like, oh, I'm, you know, I'm using way too much, or maybe it makes you feel good, like, hey, I'm below average for that size. So prescriptive norms, people listen to people they trust. Oh, this probably fits more with Sarah Lynn. People they trust, like community leaders, authority figures, and friends. Maybe you in your community group or friend group. An example of this might, in marketing, you might notice that a celebrity is promoting some kind of cause. So they think that people are going to listen to them because they're a well-known person. A person's core values can be changed based on what they hear from these sources. And then there's descriptive norms. People look for visual clues and other information that convey what people around them think is normal. So for example, with litter, studies have shown that people will walk down two different streets and make different decisions about what they should do with their trash. If there's already a lot of litter on the ground, many people will conclude that it's acceptable, and they will litter, even when there's garbage cans or do not litter signs. But if the street already looks pristine, people have been shown to carry their garbage longer distances instead of littering. So that definitely comes up in the Keep America Beautiful litter studies, that litter begets more litter. So, you know, I know when it's not that I didn't, of course I pick up trash around my house. I live on a corner where there's a lot of pedestrians. But I think when I read that, it made me even more in tune to this idea. As soon as I see something on the sidewalk near my house, I pick it up because I'm like, as long as I can keep it looking clean, then there shouldn't be as very much litter. And there really isn't. It's not like every day that I see things on the ground. So another example would be this is a rule, bringing your garbage carts in from the collection spot, which causes litter. And it also might allow your cart to be damaged or stolen. So it's very important to bring it back. But I remember we met someone out in the Shelby Park neighborhood. She's the new president for the association, and she didn't know that rule, and she just thought it was okay to leave it out because everyone in her alley always left it out. So she was doing a behavior based on what she saw through the visual clue. So all you got to do is kind of get several people knowing the rule, and then it will look abnormal for you to leave it out all the time. And also we saw this with before we offered recycling carts through our grant to everybody, and all you really could do is purchase it outright if you wanted a bigger cart or a cart at all. We noticed that if a resident on a street bought one, you'd get more people buying them on the street because they would see it. It was kind of like, oh, I didn't know I could do that, or oh, they did that, I want to do it too. So if it's perceived that most people don't care very much about recycling, then it might seem okay to occasionally join others and throw recyclables in the garbage. But the more the recycling story is told, like we're a community of recyclers, the more motivated people will be to recycle. So we all know there are certain cities in the United States that are known for their recycling or known for their better trash programs. We also all know that there are some areas of Louisville that are just better known to be better at their trash and recycling. So we want to kind of make all of Louisville known as that it's more, it's not like, oh, you live in this area of town, so you probably don't really care about recycling, or you live in this area, you probably do. We just want Louisville to be known where we are all, it's the norm to participate in recycling, or it's the norm to bring those bags to the store, reusable bags, things like that. And shaming doesn't work, even though it's very tempting. I think a lot of us think it might be. But making someone feel badly about their behavior is not an effective tool for behavior change. You might be, you're making someone feel badly without necessarily addressing the barriers that are keeping them from changing. Or it can inadvertently reinforce that environmentally unfriendly behaviors are normal. So, if everybody knows Americans, we consume more than other countries. So, by saying that, it's almost like we're saying it's okay to be that consumer. Some people are not willing to be unconventional in order to do the right thing. And people are more likely to make a change if they think it's the right thing to do and that it's the normal thing to do. And an example, and also kind of that positive message of maybe instead of in your office building, no one in this office is sorting their trash correctly. You could say, you might set a goal and then say, hey, we're doing a great job working toward this goal. So just trying to be a little bit more positive about it. I know I get a lot of questions on Nextdoor, and I've also had a lot of people tell me they like the way I answer questions. And I think it's because I'm very careful to not shame people or to not make people feel stupid, like they should have known that. I'm intentional about that. So you know, we kind of want people to feel good about their either what they don't know, their questions, or maybe even just giving them like, hey, this might be a better idea, or this is what I do. So
I just wanted to say, if you live in a more conservative area, where maybe residents are older and they're not really used to recycling, maybe something besides, say, aluminum. Okay.
mhm.
One thing that I have found helpful, and I had I had a resident that said, well, back in my day, and I said, well, I'm so glad you brought that up because back in your day, I said, because I can remember my grandmother talking about it, you didn't really let anything go to waste. And that's exactly what we're trying to prevent here. It's reduce, reuse, recycle for a reason. And
Mhm.
if you can do something with it, you've already paid for it, why not?
Yeah, very good. So here's a few things that are kind of tricks of the trade. So the first one is tools. And actually this to me is like with that concept from the book Switch. This is sort of like shaping the path. Maybe I think I mentioned it when I was talking about it, but like a barrier to riding your bike to work might be that you feel unsafe. So a tool might be a map of the safest routes, which I think our phones all do that for us. And then, or a buddy to ride with you for the first time.
Or
Maybe. Um, or maybe you're trying to reduce food waste in your house, but a barrier might be that you buy too much that ends up going to waste. So a tool might be the idea that you take a photo of your pantry or your fridge before you go, so you can kind of look. And you might think, wait, do I already have this? Or if you're trying to recycle more in like the bathroom, say, there's things that we get done with in the bathroom that can be recyclable, but it's not really a place where people often have two containers. But you might think, okay, if I add a container, then it will help me. That's a tool to help me recycle more. We used with the large item pickup, which I already mentioned, we actually like the method of making an appointment. I was so excited about this program because to make an appointment, you do it online. And the method actually teaches you as you go. It's educational. And the drop down, there's a list of things which we're going to tweak and make better because of what we've seen. But the idea is you're shaping that path so that people it's almost harder to do it wrong now than it was before because of the method. So tools is important. Commitments often work. People might be more likely to act if they publicly state that they plan to do it. You might have been a part of some sort of, you sign on a poster, that you're going to do something. It just helps people to be more motivated to change their behavior. Or if they're willing to try something for a certain amount of time. That's why, you might get a free trial of an exercise program or something like that, because they're like, okay, if you see that you like it, then you are probably going to buy it. When we gave out recycling carts to residents, some people might have been like, I don't know that I want this big of a cart, can you come get it? It's too big, or it's what is going on here. So we kind of encouraged people like, hey, just give it a month or however long we said, and see how it goes, and then talk to us again if you still. So we're trying to kind of get people to try things out a little bit first. Another one is prompts, meaning that if carefully placed prompts right where they might take the action is good. Like if you, I've never given these out or seen them, but there might be like a little sticker that can say something like, don't forget to get your bags out of the car. You know, a lot of people don't, they're like, oh, I'm at the store and I forgot to bring my bags in. They're in the car. So having some kind of prompt at the right spot that helps you remember. Kentucky Air Education puts up signs in car lines or places where people tend to idle their car to remind, saying this is an idle-free zone, because that's the prompt. And then, of course, transactional benefits, kind of like Sue was talking about with having a free reusable bag might give you that incentive to actually use it. Integrating prizes or public recognition, discounts, even cash or whatever, you know, trying to motivate people is a good trick of the trade. Now, that is pretty much the presentation about behavior change that I have, but I also wanted to share with you all briefly about our outreach campaign that we have. And I'm going to jump right into this, and we'll, once I've shared this, we'll talk a little bit and offer if there's any more questions or discussion you all want to have before we go to the next topic. But I want to go ahead and share this with you that we do have a vendor called Field Trip. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of them, but they're like kind of like an advertising agency here that's local, and they're helping us do an anti-litter campaign. The Waste District has committed to at least a year of campaigns and, you know, up to a certain amount of money, and hopefully we'll be able to keep doing this annually. But our first campaign is about not littering. It's for all of Metro with a heavier focus on certain neighborhoods and zip codes that might benefit with a more, be more impactful. And then, of course, the demographics are just the general audience, but secondary is that under 40 is a group that's more likely to litter. And this is something they shared with us, kind of like it's a marketing tool, which is not my expertise, but I'm learning. And the reason the top 4 are highlighted is because this message that they're doing for our first campaign are going to focus on those. So it's kind of showing like the levels of getting someone to buy into something. So first there's awareness, and then it gets a little deeper into interest and consideration, intent, all the way down to advocate. And that's like you all, you know, like our ambassadors are the advocates. They've learned all of this, they've converted, and then they've flipped it around where they're actually trying to get other people to also be aware and carry on. So, so the litter campaign is going to focus on these top 4. And this is what we have, bus shelter posters that are actually, as of today, supposed to be up. I haven't driven anywhere today, so I have no idea exactly where. Can't remember. I'd have to look it up, but I was looking for here we go. But this is what it looks like, and this is the campaign is basically it adds up, which every piece makes a difference, which goes 2 directions. One is don't litter because it adds up, and you know, makes an area look trashy. But also it goes with if you pick up litter or choose not to litter, it adds up, and every piece makes a difference. So, so we do have a landing page, which I did not screenshot it, but we can send that link in our follow-up email. Anyway, so there's some bus shelter posters. Some of them do have specific neighborhoods on them. We're going to have the ability to have some of these printed as well, if we maybe put some up in community centers or any place that someone would like. Then there's going to be some digital media, some social media content. And one of them is when it comes to litter, it's not hard to not litter. When it comes to litter, your actions add up. Last year, Louisville Cruise picked up over 100,000 pounds of trash. This year, keep Louisville clean, find a trash can, pick up misplaced garbage, and remember it adds up. Keep Louisville clean. And there's going to be some audio messages as well through streaming platforms. I think that 100,000 is right. That I might have a one of their placeholders, but I think it was 100,000. And another one is when you see it, pick it up. Take the time to find a trash can or recycling bin, pick up misplaced trash when and where you see it, and remember it adds up. Litter is a choice, don't. And we'll have some outdoor billboards, but the digital boards that you might see on the highway that have the same message, just not a particular neighborhood name. So it adds up. Every piece makes a difference. And there is a website that takes you to a landing page. That's one of them. And then here's the last one. So bus shelters are starting today. All other media starts March 1st. And then the process goes that the company is going to monitor for 30 days and then give us an update on the progress. And the whole campaign will continue for 60 more days after that. So it's like a 90-day campaign. So we're really excited. It's kind of our first outreach campaign like this. So we'll have learnings and kind of see how it goes. But we're excited.
Karen, how will they determine the success or the progress of this action?
Yeah, the digital part of it is kind of what drives that. So website visits, impressions on the digital ads, the frequency of them, that's the kind of thing that they'll look at. So yeah, again, so it's kind of new to us as far as judging, kind of new judging. We'd love to be able to say that, you know, our city's going to look a lot cleaner, but you have first you kind of have to have a baseline. We do have methods of visual, and we've done it for smaller programs where you do like a cleanliness assessment. It's possible to do that. We happen to have the resources to do cleanliness assessments everywhere, to know a difference, and be part of it too. But right now it'll be focused on the digital metrics that they can provide. And that's pretty much what I've got, Diane. And I'm stop sharing it, and I'm gonna go ahead and the button. Sometimes it's like, here we go. Like sometimes I just can't find the buttons. So anyway, I'm happy to discuss more, or if anybody wants to chime in. I know I kind of went through a lot of that content quickly, and it's really, I mean, read the book Switch. I learned so much from that book. I love it so much.
Karen, I think Karen's a little problem with her feed, so hopefully it gets back together. I'm going to go ahead and share my PowerPoint, and Emily, you're going to help me out with this, correct? Talking about some of this stuff.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. This is not the beginning. Let me start at the beginning here. Oh, hang on. Let me end. And go to the beginning again. Hello again. Start the PowerPoint again. So Karen was basically talking about how the mechanics of making people feel more comfortable in changing a lifestyle for to better the community and the planet. So what Emily and I are going to talk about is the other way. And that is going to be resourceful living. Now, Emily is much more resourceful at her living than I am, but I'm, like I said before, I'm always seem to be at the contemplation stage, which is okay. That's okay. I'm okay, and not judge myself or others. But resourceful living is waste not, what not. Not that these kind of old, think they were basically from World War I, or maybe some of them might be from World War II, about how to save and not waste things. And it was interesting when I was looking up Waste Not Whatnot, that it was all about that all of the other stuff will go to other people to benefit other people. But I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, I did like these old little Cracker Barrel-esque types of things, but let's see. That's kind of what resourceful living is waste not whatnot. I also like to compare it to what do I want to say? How do I want to put this?
One good
Not
way.
having so much baggage, having making things more important, more intentional living, I guess. Is that a better term, Emily? A more intentional way of life? So we're going to talk about 4 strategies of how you can reinforce your resourceful living. And of course, reuse, rent or borrow, buy things that can last so you can fix them instead of throw them away, and then buy smart. But the biggest one I always like is reduce. Make the decision to maybe minimalize what you're purchasing so that you don't have to worry about the baggage of either reusing or borrowing or something like that. Do you really need it? And you just have to ask yourself, do I need it? And if the answer is yes, then don't feel guilty about yourself for someone else buying it, then buy it. But then there is a responsibility after that. You need to find out, is it reusable? Can you let someone share it? Is it fixable? So there is a responsibility, just like waste is a responsibility. Anybody who buys anything, it is their responsibility to do something with their waste. And litter is that loss of that responsibility. That is I do judge people who litter. I can't help that. So Emily, maybe you can help me out talking about this. Please just start talking if you need to, but reusing is something where you reuse it exactly that it was meant to be, or think about it differently, like this little planter, which is fabulous. But once again, reducing it, that plastic still has to go to the landfill when you alter it. You probably may not be able to recycle it if it's altered in some way, if you paint it, if you put, something else in there. Anyway, you have to be mindful about your reuse. What I like to do is tell people about the transformation at the zoo, which is really fun. But a lot of the stuff that they use, kids make new items like robots out of their trash and recycling, or musical instruments out of their trash and recycling, but they alter it so much that they cannot put that in their recycling, that everything that they make, all of those little examples that they made, all the little robots and little giraffes that they made out of Coke bottles or plastic bottles, they've altered it so much that it's garbage now. They can't recycle that. So you have to be mindful of your reuse. it doesn't mean that it's not okay. It's okay that if you're reusing it once or twice or even 3 times, it's okay. But you have to know that when you make plastic, that plastic eventually will go to the landfill in whatever form it's going to be, whether it's going to be a piece of furniture or a carpet or a jacket made out of fleece. That plastic will end up, even though its iteration is 4 or 5 times, it will eventually end up in the landfill. Now, Emily, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna add, I think that's a great point, and I personally, especially as a composter, I like trying to buy things or reuse things that I know will, like I can throw in my compost, and I know that they're not going to go to the landfill. Obviously, you can't always do that. I think we've been talking about being kind to yourself, and you don't have to be perfect, but that's something that I do think about a lot. Or like trying to get something that's maybe glass or metal over plastic, because even if I do recycle it, I know that those are things that are really easy to recycle. And this plant thing is a great example. I just learned how to make these little origami pots out of newspaper. And I've been starting all my plants in them, and I can put this whole thing in the ground and it'll degrade into my garden, which is really cool. And I really like that because I love to garden, and it's been a problem for me figuring out how to get away from plastic pots because they're just so prevalent, and the ceramic ones are good, but they're expensive and they break. And so I've been like folding tons of these out of Leo's, which I can get for free. So just kind of,
and they probably just throw those away anyway.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
probably.
because
Mhm.
they have a due date, in a month they throw them away.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And the Leo's a little bit thicker than newsprint too, so it makes it really kind of nice.
Yeah, they are surprisingly resilient. They do very well.
That's neat. So do you start your little plants out with seeds so that you're
Yep. And so this is out of like a full Leo sheet. And then you can also, I don't have one handy with me, but you can like put them into quarters and then make littler pots for like starting pots, and then graduate them up to like the bigger pots.
well,
Or just
that's
start
kind
them
of
with
cool.
these if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, neat. So that is definitely reuse, and certainly that will not go to the landfill where paper does not belong.
Mhm.
That's great. So here are some examples of some reuse. Of course, the reusable bags. One year for Christmas, I made everybody beeswax wraps, like that little picture down in the bottom in the lower left there. And they turned out okay. Nobody liked them. So I'm gonna have to practice making those. I had some scrap fabric, and there is a apiarist who has beehives that she sells her beeswax online from Eastwood, and I ordered some beeswax from her, which is really kind of cool. But um, there is a learning curve. So yes, my bee food reps were not very successful, but that's okay. Once again, I have to be kind to myself. What else? Oh, um, the glass bottles for your water bottle is really super nice. However, it does have the silicone sleeve. Silicone is a plastic. So the others are metal, but you can only put cold things in there. And washing them, they can't go into the dishwasher. You have to wash them by hand. And they get really hot when you wash them by hand. So it's all something that has to fit your lifestyle. I have mine's plastic, and yes, I know that eventually it will end up in the landfill, and then that's a decision I have to live with. Um, let's see, what else is there?
I have an example to add,
Okay,
similar to what you said about the beeswax wraps. One year for the holidays, I gave my family, I wanted them all to try toothpaste tabs, which are zero waste. And so, sorry, it's really windy at my house. It's really distracting.
No, it is here too. One of the ambassadors said she had a tree fall down. So
Yeah, I saw
yeah,
that.
that
Yeah,
was kind of scary. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happened in my neighborhood too.
Yes, it hit the building just a few minutes ago, and I kind of went like this. Yeah.
But I bought like a whole thing of toothpaste tabs, and then I got like little bottles where I could put like a weekend's worth of toothpaste tabs. So like if you go away for the weekend, you can just bring the little bottle. And I knew it was something that like most people in my family would think is kind of weird and they probably wouldn't try on their own. So I gifted it upon them and made them all try it. And I'm not sure, I haven't really followed up to see if it stuck with anybody, but I figured, it's something they can try. They can try a different way to brush their teeth that doesn't involve the toothpaste tubes that are, pretty much impossible to.
So do you put the little tab on your toothbrush and then just add water?
It's like a little, almost like, like an Altoid mint tab.
Yeah.
And you put it in your mouth and you just kind of crunch it up until it just becomes like a paste in your mouth, and then you brush your teeth just like regular.
Hey,
Yeah.
how cool is that?
And most
Huh.
of the companies there's a few different companies that make them, but most of them, because like they know that the people buying those are concerned about waste, all the shipping materials and everything are very thoughtfully purchased, and so they're all recyclable or compostable as well. So
Well, how cool is that? How interesting. That's, I don't know if you have ever seen this in an old black and white movie, but sometimes they had toothpaste powder. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like toothpaste powder. Yeah, how interesting. That is really neat. Yeah, you need to follow up on that and see if they have used it or enjoyed that.
they all seem very confused by it, but
I'm showing my age
Did
because
my
I
best.
grew up with toothpaste powder. It was in a little tin. You wet your toothbrush, you put it on there, and that's the way. I don't know how old I was before I finally saw toothpaste in a toothpaste container. I just ordered last night the laundry detergent sheets, and I'm very curious to see. So instead of getting laundry detergent in a bottle, plastic bottle, you have these sheets that you just throw in.
Right,
And
they
I
dissolve.
yes, and I have been using the shampoo and conditioner that is in a bar. I've been using those for several years and I love them.
Do you really? I did not
Yes.
like them.
I do.
But-
I do. Although my favorite brand, they seem to have stopped making. But yes, I do. You just have to be careful that, for example, when you use a conditioner, don't put it on the top of your head. Just put it on the ends. But yes, I love it. I've never had a problem.
Okay.
And I've had short hair and long hair with it. So
Same, I use it too. I love it as well.
Yes.
Do you? Good.
Mhm.
Good. I've tried it, but it just wasn't for me.
and that's okay. That's okay.
And that's okay.
Yes.
Here are some other examples of reusing things different than their purpose. My favorite thing is the ladder bookshelf. I think that is fabulous. And of course, anything to do with sewing. I do like those little aprons made out of different types of apparel and clothing. I don't know, a couple of people had to leave because they lost power at their house. So that was interesting. Everybody needs to stay safe out there, okay? Here, I like to look at this picture for all the different examples. My favorite thing right now is to find different uses for all the jars that I have. I've saved little jars and big jars, and that's one of my favorite things is to save things into glass jars, which seem to keep really well. I don't know why, but they keep very well in glass jars. Even with that, little metal lid, it still keeps pretty good stuff in there. And then if you want to purchase used things, I don't know if anybody's ever shopped at Goodwill, but the first time I ever did was a couple of years ago. And I was very impressed. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. It can be overwhelming. There is a lot of stuff, and you just have to take your time and give yourself time. In other words, if you're there all day, you're just going to get sick to your stomach. Give yourself an hour, and at the end of that hour, if you haven't found anything, then you just leave and it's okay. It's not a goal
Can I share
to buy
something?
6 shirts. So
Can I share something?
yes, please.
Okay. I have a daughter who has several Airbnbs, just short-term rentals, and they always have to be, they have to have all the furniture and all the appliances and all that kind of stuff in it. There are some things she buys new. She buys her bedding and her appliances new, but has furnished several of these Airbnbs out of recycled, reused materials. She goes to Goodwill quite frequently and has helped other people do the same thing. And she has done an absolutely magnificent job. She she had $8,000 in furnishing a 4-bedroom, 2-bath vacation rental, which, when you remember, she had to buy all of her bedding and her appliances new. That's amazing. So it's very economical to do that kind of thing. And yes,
it is, and you just have to be a smart shopper and know what you're looking for.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not going to get everything in one trip.
Oh,
you're
no.
not going to get, you're not going to get everything in 2 trips. You have to be very circumspect about exactly what you're looking for. And sometimes you find that one thing that you didn't know you were looking for, and it's going to fit perfectly wherever you needed it. So,
well, she's very good at that, and I was impressed that she has done that. So being able to furnish and buy stuff like that is pretty amazing. The first
it's
time,
a talent. Yeah,
yes,
it's
is.
a talent.
The first time they had a house in Gatlinburg, the first time it burned down in the big fire they had in Gatlinburg, and they gave them more money for the furnishings than she had in it. So then she had to replace stuff though. So
Right.
I just thought that was interesting that they said, now
That is
that's not
interesting.
enough. You let us know exactly what you've had to, what you had and stuff. And she said, I'm keeping my mouth shut, Mom.
Yeah, you don't say anything. That's right. That's funny. But yeah, that's fabulous. It does take time. You can't, if you're looking for a green chair, like in that picture, you may not see a green chair for 3 months looking for it, but yeah, eventually you'll find something. You will. It's true. There's also, especially with our new large item by appointment system, these are kind of the things that we like to tell people. When Karen was talking about that editorial that somebody had over the weekend, that if our waste system is not a free flea market, so people need to find other avenues for getting and being responsible for their waste. And these are some of those examples. You can put it up on social media for somebody to come and get it, and people will come and get free things. So it just means that doing it this way just keeps our neighborhoods cleaner, which is kind of interesting how a lot of residents didn't realize that having our large item appointment, when you look at it another way, keeps their neighborhood cleaner. There's also a reuse in the community, and I didn't know that there were like Tupperware parties for reusing clothes. Everybody brings in a bunch of clothes, and then you just sit around and you trade your apparel. And I had no idea. I thought that, well, what a great idea. That is a great idea to do that.
I
I've got another example too. I'm part of a group of 12. I think there's 12 of us. And somebody bought like a huge bin, and we just have like a Google sheet that shows like where the bin is. And when it'll just show up on your porch from the person who's before you on the Google sheet. And it's mostly clothes, but sometimes there's like housewares in there, or like tchotchkes or jewelry or other things. And if it fits in the box, you can put it in there. You can take anything out, and it goes in a circle. And they've been doing it. I just got asked to be a part of it a few months ago, but I think it's been going since 2019, this group. And it's really cool. And yeah, you can get new stuff. And then if it doesn't fit in the box, it's up to whoever it is. Like, you can take stuff out and go ahead and donate it to Goodwill or responsibly.
Oh,
get rid of it.
nice.
But yeah.
Well, that's so neat. What
Mhm.
a good idea. And if you're in that group, you probably feel like your tastes are kind of similar, so that things are more reusable.
And on the Google sheet, you can add like if you want something specific or what sizes you wear. So people have different requests out that you can look at if you get the box and you're wondering what to put in it.
Neat.
Yeah, it's really nice.
That is so cool. Let's see here. Oh, the buyer hierarchy. It's the hardest thing. It is very hard to have that not just in the back of your mind, but to have it in the front of your mind. That it's okay to borrow, it's okay to rent. And I wish we had more maker places that had tools to rent around in Louisville. We had a couple, but the only place now is in Southern Indiana. But it would be nice to have a lot more places that share tools and things like that. Were you going to say something, Emily?
Yeah, there's the Louisville Tool Library that just opened up last year in Shelby Park.
Yes, there is. You're right. And I believe a couple of other libraries have opened up some tool shares, but I believe they're just drills and things like that. Nothing too terribly extensive woodworking.
The tool library has like
a wide variety
So-
of things.
yeah, sewing machines,
Oh,
cooking items. They have a free seed bank too. You do have to be a member, but you don't have to be a member to get seeds from the seed bank. And they also have, it's called a community room. And it just has like sandpaper, nails, like the things that you buy because you just need one of, but then you end up with 50 of them. So people can come and bring those in, and that's a free resource for the community. You don't have to be a member to use their community room.
Where did you say that is?
At the Louisville Tool Library, it's on Logan Street. It's right down the street from Logan Street Market and Fall City Community Bike Works.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. How cool is that?
Yeah, and they have a sliding scale membership fee. So I think they ask for $120 a year, but they don't actually, like, you sign up on your phone, so they don't actually know how much you put in there. So they're like, if you can't pay that, just put in what you can. And I think the minimum a year is like $5. So if
Well,
like,
how interesting.
yeah, if budget is an issue, like they're super happy to work with you, and they won't even ask you what you put in there. So you don't have to
So it would be nice if you're trying to clean up your house and minimize that. If you have all these stupid nails like I do in my house, that's a good repository to take stuff like that too.
And
Well,
they're
nice.
they've got a lot of stuff. I know they've like kind of slowed down on what they accept, but if you have a tool that you're like, I only use this once a year and it's just taking up space, you can donate it to them. And then if you need it that one time a year, you can just go check it out instead of,
That's
and that
terrific.
way anyone in the community can use it, and you don't have to store it for that like one time you have to use it.
Right. It's like a ride chair. How nice.
Mhm.
That is so cool. Well, I'm going to look into that and see, because I am trying to minimize. I always try. I'm contemplating minimizing is what I'm doing.
Me too.
one of the biggest things that I always try to do too is to make sure that what I purchase has a longer life cycle than most things, so that you can be able to fix and maintain it. My TV of 10 years, 12 years, 15, I can't remember. Anyway, finally went out and I have to buy a new TV. And do I have to? No, but I do want my TV. I do like my TV. But it's hard because I know that there is not going to be a TV I can fix. Period. There just isn't. And the thing I'm going to have to try and find is one that is going to last a while. That's it. And it just is kind of a shame. I know that even before I even make a selection, that it is something I'm not going to be able to fix. So at least it will be recyclable. Anymore.
In January, I participated in a buy nothing month. That was in terms of food. So I just ate what was in my pantry and what was in my freezer. I have a small freezer in my laundry room. And now in February, I've been doing buy nothing new. And I had to host a ladies' dinner and I needed some wine glasses. I'd lent them out to my kids and I wasn't in the mood to get them back. So I did go to Goodwill. And instead of buying 6 champagne flutes for $25 at Target, I bought them for 89 cents a piece at Goodwill. Now, they didn't all match 100%, but you know what? That's kind of the way people do it now. They like it when things don't match. So I was happy.
That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of funny when you weigh the aesthetic, you know, of beautiful matching crystal champagne flutes versus, okay, these are just glass goblets or whatever. You know, we have to realize that it's okay. Do you really need the champagne flutes that are crystal and all this other stuff? Yeah, that's true. That's true. Buy durable products, buy something that will last. Oops. Oh, have you guys seen the little YouTube story, the story of stuff, video, the story of stuff? Well, get on YouTube and type in a search, the story of stuff, and it's about 21 minutes long. You should watch it. This lady has an entire series from water bottles to the story of plastic and other things. But this is a really interesting example of the effect you have on the planet and what effect you will have when you try and minimize your stuff. I don't know if you guys remember what was his name? George Carlin? Was it? Yeah, where he tells his little story about, you know, when you have to buy a bigger house because you have all this stuff, and then you have to buy a bigger house because now you have more stuff. I always liked that little skit that he had. But yes, this is an excellent little video to watch. We used to watch this and show the kids at the zoo. It was kind of an eye-opener. She did a really nice job with it. I wanted to talk to you about something I just learned about in the last couple of weeks. Now, you'll have to excuse me. I'll probably mispronounce it. It's called sumac cause, and it's a South American way of living. It's life in harmony with nature. It's a collective of well-being of the community to achieve through harmony with nature, which is something that I think is a kind of a neat thing to try and achieve. They actually have written in several of the countries in South America, have written some of those ideals in their constitution, which I thought was a huge step. the problem is that it became a political soundbite that kind of got a little adulterated in the process, but at least it brought that idea to the forefront of living with harmony with nature. The other idea that kind of, I do not know Spanish and it's in Spanish, so I have no idea what it says, but I thought it was a great infographic. And I didn't know if anybody could speak Spanish and translate that for me, so I have no idea. Can you guys see it okay?
I'm not sure that that's Spanish.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't, well, it does have a tilde. I'm not sure. I took Spanish in high school and college. I don't speak it fluently, but I don't recognize any of those words.
It could be
It's subtitled in Spanish. The gray is
okay.
Oh, the
The
gray is
bottom
in
part.
Spanish. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the green letters and I was like, I don't know.
yeah, because like Seme would be serenidad, which would be serenity.
Mhm.
Okay.
Randy would be reciprocity.
Okay.
Ure Maki would be communal work.
Oh.
Jay would be
Okay.
socio-political organization. Yashe would be knowledge of your ancestors. Kakta, Kause, I guess that's balance. I did not know that was the Spanish word for balance. Ale Kause would be harmony, and Winyak Kause would be creativity.
Okay. Well, good. Thank you so much, Corey. I appreciate that. I went through it and I was like, I think I know some of the words, but I didn't want to assume because it could mean something totally different. But I thought this was a really good infographic about how they are interrelated, and how nature becomes more, instead of something people use and extract things from, nature becomes more intimate part of their lives that that we are dependent upon. So I like this one.
It
And,
says it's from like Bolivia and Ecuador, so I think the original language is whatever they speak.
Yes,
I have
and
no
it
clue
could
what they
also
speak
be
down there.
from indigenous peoples from there too. It's a way of living that, you don't have to keep up with the Joneses. The next one is Ben Verveer, and I might be mispronouncing that, but it's living well without living better at the expense of others or the planet. It works to advance ecological resilience, reduce resource consumption, restore biodiversity, which is very important in the Amazon, and traditional ways of life, and to topple extractive, topple extractive, I can't read my own handwriting. In other words, trying not to take so much from the earth, which I kind of really liked. This kind of way of living is not only should we just think about reduce, reuse, and recycle, but we should think about where is it coming from? That should be our side along with reduce. Where is it coming from? Reduce. Where is it originally coming from? How long did it have to travel? Where did it get extracted from? Anyway, those are some of the things that I was looking at when I was looking up this topic of resourceful living. So, and then that's it. That's the discussion. Does anybody have any questions or anything? I know we went a little long and there was lots of talking and sometimes it gets kind of, Karen's back. So Karen, is your house okay? Several people lost power.
No, we've got everything here. It was very windy. I did
Yes.
decide to just drive on home instead of going back to the office, but yeah, super windy out there.
Rachel said that she had a tree down, so I don't know if she was at school or
I think
if she
she's
was
usually at
home.
school. I was surprised until I went outside, and then I thought, oh, okay, yes, trees might be coming
Corey
down.
just said that they issued a high wind warning, so which is typical. Oh, she said the cell phone thing just went off.
Oh, I just went out and folded up the chairs on my patio because they were everywhere.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I bet tons of stuff are blowing around in my yard.
Yeah, watch your garbage carts.
Yeah, watch your garbage cart.
My yard waste container, I knew, I was like, it was in the middle of our alley, but at least it wasn't gone.
They do like to travel, don't they, Karen?
Yeah.
Whether they're like rocks in the desert or people like to move them. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about any of our discussion, about anything about even the 6 weeks that we've been traveling through the ambassadorship training? Emily, are you going to be able to come at the 16th, March 16th from 6 to 7?
Yes.
Okay. You can pick
To
up,
see
if you
exactly.
send me your picture, you can pick up your new badge then.
Oh, okay, yes.
Okay.
I think so. There's nothing off the top of my head, but I'm one of those people that's always like, yeah, that's fine. And then I look and I'm like, oh crap, I can't do it. But
If you
yes, I
can't,
don't
then
think
you
I
can
have
always,
anything that day.
yeah, then you can always just email us and let us know if you can come by during business hours or something, or even after. Because Karen and I live pretty close, and anyway, whatever we need, whatever you need, we can certainly, and this goes for all ambassadors, we can certainly work something out in our schedules. So, but if you guys have any questions about anything in No Waste Ambassadors, anything about the ambassadorship, I did put a whole bunch of stuff on the calendar. So please take a look at those to sign up. I did want to tell you that Tree Fest, I don't know, Emily, remember when we went to Tree Fest last year? This year, I have a prior commitment. I'm going to teach a class on something at a library. I can't remember which one, but I cannot do it. So it will have to be a full ambassador event. And I put down for 3 ambassadors. If we don't get 3 ambassadors to sign up, then I don't think it would be a very comfortable all-day event. So think about that. And some of the new ambassadors might be a good example of exactly what has to happen during a tabling event. It's a good event. It's a busy event. It was pretty busy last year. So that was a nice event to go to. We got to see some famous people. What's her name? I always forget her name with the long red hair.
Cindy Sullivan?
Yes. She was famous. Anyway. Karen, can you think of anything?
Just, yeah, watching the emails. I know, I mean, we've gone through a lot of content, so, but we're here. It's not like it's over. There's no more interaction. We're always here. And we hope to offer we're trying to be a little better about offering things throughout the year, whether it's a training or a tour or something. So we just keep watching for those kinds of events. We would like to have something happening each month. And we're kind of waiting on the landfill to tell us some dates so that we can plug in some of the other ones that don't really care so much about, it's like easier to plan with certain ones than others. So so once we get some more things scheduled, we're hoping to have something offered for you guys, whether it's a tour or come into us. Who knows? We might just come up with some new things, but we'd like to see you all, once a month. And if you
I
can't,
would
because
have
not
said-
everybody can come. So the more we
Right.
offer, the more we'll get to see all of everybody.
I wanted to tell you guys too that Karen and I have a lot of resources. If you find that in a Google search, your resources might be a little swayed or not quite as thorough as you think, sometimes hard copies of resources tend to be a little bit more clarifying. So we do have lots of resources if you need anything to help you in our mission of putting waste in its proper place. So
Yeah, we have some books and things. We did use that state grant to build a resource library, and that was the point. Of course, we did this in 2020, we're kind of getting to that point where people aren't afraid to come to us and breathe with us. No, but that's the idea, is to have resources for you all. And I, even tabling opportunities that, like, something I would love to see happen is having more displays that might be on a particular subject that you could check out and take to a tabling opportunity. We're just going to get more and more of that happening that maybe we haven't seen in the past few years because of the pandemic. So it's all a process for us, or a journey for all of us, I guess. We want you all to be a part of it. Add to it.
yes, Karen and I took a course on Don't Waste It. So we have a lot of child-friendly activities. We did another course with Swana about zero waste and how to help your organization become more zero waste and what that means and things. So we do have a lot of yes, we're going to send out the page that we sent you before with a bunch of information. So we'll send that link back to you, Miss Corey. So you'll get that. Yes. Let's see. What else was there? I guess that was it. We have some good hard copies of resources is one thing I wanted to say. Also, we're going to arrange, my favorite thing to do would be to teach you guys the landfill model. Yay. So I don't have to be sole owner of the landfill model. Let's see. We're going to arrange to do that on a class, and that's going to take at least an hour to understand how things are put together to talk about landfills. So, yes, they're all done. Thank you, Miss Emily, for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all.
And you guys,
all.
it is 3:00. Thank you so much for coming today. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Where is my button?